Andrea Gaughan, and this is my very first ever knitting podcast. Thank you so much for joining me and watching, and I hope you can bear with me as I try to figure this all out because it's my absolute first time doing anything like this. But I have piles of stuff all over that I'm excited to show you. I really love watching knitting podcasts, especially while I'm knitting. And I've been thinking for a while about starting my own. I've been designing for a couple of years now, and I've recently started to take it extra seriously, and I'm trying to produce about a pattern a month coming out. So I have a lot of stuff that's recently come out and in testing and about to be in testing, and it's swatching. So we're gonna go through all of that. And I'm going to glance at my note just when it's just a warning. I'll try to get better about that over time. So first off, I get the question a lot, how you pronounce my last name. It's spelled Gaughan. It's Irish. My grandparents, very Irish. They moved here in their 20s from Ireland. There's actually not a really right answer. People in my family all say it differently, but I'm going with Gaughan. So it's basically just like Vaughn, Vaughan, or just N. So like Vaughn with a G, Andrea Gaughan. All right, let me see. What am I going to begin with out of all these things I have piled around me? Well, first, let's start with the one you're already looking at. This tank that I'm wearing right now is called Helianthus. That is part of the scientific name for sunflower, and I wanted a really bright summery tank, so that's where that came from. I just released this pattern last month in May, and I made two versions, this stripy version, and I also made this all yellow version. This yellow is just like my favorite go-to shade. I really love this one. That's the same yellow, that's the stripe. But we also have this like peachy pink, and this is actually the like natural undyed color. The yarn is Undine. We're gonna have a lot of me saying, I don't know if this is how you pronounce this, because so many of these yarn names and everything, I just read them online or on a ball of yarn. I don't have a really good resource for knowing how they're pronounced, but I've been saying it Undine in my head. And it's a cotton merino blend from Ritual Dyes, and it's amazing. I really love it. I would really like to make more designs in this base. I already am making some more of this design in this base, but we're going to get to that in the whip section. The pattern includes both instructions for the plain, just regular, and this striping pattern. But it's super simple to modify it with any kind of color combo you want. I encourage testers to do that. So with all my designs, I have a tester roundup, tester showcase, actually is what I call it. And you can see all of their versions, and that allows you to see it on different body shapes, sizes. But another thing is that it gets you to see different colors and different color combos. So quite a few people, I was almost actually surprised how many people went with the solid one, but that was awesome. They were all great, and a lot of people did stripes, but then people did some of their own striping schemes, and some people did a solid color with just the contrast rib. I really like that. I like those like little details, and one of the testers did an Intarsia version where they did a color block, 4 panels of color. I loved that, and I'm actually imitating that and gonna make my own version just like that, which we'll get to. Okay, so this pattern's available right now. If you want to make a fun summery tank, you can find that. The link to that and the link to a million other things that I'm going to mention throughout this podcast are all going to be included in the description right below. Okay. So, my next thing I want to show you is a finished sweater. I have like piles all falling over here. I just finished this last week, and I am so happy with it. I'm calling this Junko, and it is, as you can see, a raglan, and it is worked in all over mosaic knitting stitch. The patterning in this is kind of loosely inspired by one of the ones in Barbara Walker's mosaic knitting book. I think it's just called Mosaic Knitting. She's the person who invented this, as far as I understand it. But a lot of her designs are like really complex, so I kind of took the diamond idea that I liked from it, but really simplified it, and I really love the kind of impact that a more like simplistic version of something can have, especially when repeated all over. Yeah, so this sweater is worked bottom up, and I definitely have a preference, like most people, I think, for top-down sweaters, because you can try them on, kind of, you feel like you get more feedback as you're going about how the sweater's fitting you. But there's a very specific reason for that. I have the body worked first, so that you're working this whole section without any increases or decreases, so you have a whole long time to get very comfortable with this mosaic knitting pattern, before you then need to move on to the sleeves, where you then have to work increases in pattern, and then to the yoke, where you're not decreasing in pattern because the decreases are all actually only in main color, but you're still maintaining like different sections. It's not one continuous loop of the pattern. You have 4 different sections of the pattern. But I think, you know, by the time you do this whole body, you're really going to have a solid basis in what's going on in the pattern to make those things not too difficult. This pattern is a collaboration with Bare Naked Wools. I think they're so cool. It's just why I reached out to them. All of their colors, or at least in this base, they might have a little bit of dyed ones, but in this base, all the colors are natural, undyed colors from the sheep. So these came from dark gray sheep, and this came from a creamy color sheep. Some of them might be like blended. But I just think it's so cool. They have like a range of deep dark browns, light browns, tan, beige, cream, gray, charcoal, and they're all just blends or naturally occurring sheep colors, and I just think that's awesome. I try as much as I can to be supporting yarn companies, working with yarn companies that I think are doing really cool things, and in creating yarn, dyeing can be like the highest impact, environmental impact stage as far as I'm aware a lot of the time, just because of all the water chemicals that need to go into that. Of course, lots of people are trying to do that as environmentally friendly as possible. There's awesome possibilities there. I use lots of dyed yarn, dyed in different ways, but I just think it's so cool that you can do awesome color work using all yarn that's undyed. So it's kind of a special part of this. This is a DK weight Romney Merino blend. If I didn't say, it's called Kent DK. And oh yeah, here's the skeins. I will give you a bit closer look. Oop. They got a we're gonna be figuring out this whole filming thing together. I don't know if that's focusing at all. Anyway, they have like a really gorgeous kind of heathered look. Like there's depth to all the colors, and I really love that. That's like one of my favorite things. A lot of times when things are like dyed on a gray base, they have that. There's kind of like richness to the color. I think it's because like not every strand in there is actually the same color. It's like different colors blended together, but then they form a very solid looking color all together. So if you're watching this, the test call for this has just come out, and I've linked it below. It is going to be a 13-week test knit. I try to give as much time as I can to testers so people can, you know, plan their knit out, get your yarn, be comfortable, especially across all the sizes. So I'm hoping 13 weeks will be enough time for everyone to comfortably knit this. It's DK, it's all over color pattern, but it's DK weight. So, you know, the gauge isn't like too dense or anything. And then that means it's going to be released in September. It's actually going to be released basically the weekend before Rhinebeck, and I planned that on purpose because this year I'm going to be going to Rhinebeck for the very first time, and so is Bare Naked Wools, and they are going to knit up their own sample, or at least that's the plan at the moment. They're going to knit up their own sample and have it at their booth. So I just think that's super cool. People can like look at it, touch it. I'll be wearing my own there. And so if you are going to Rhinebeck and want to test, it could kind of be your own Rhinebeck sweater as well. We can have like a tiny little group of us there that have them. Or if you're attending Rhinebeck, you could check out those samples and see if you're interested in getting Bare Naked Wools' yarn to knit this with. And one more thing. Yes, one more thing about this one is Bare Naked Wools is offering a 10% discount to selected testers that do want to use their yarn for the test knit. It's not required, it's never required in my test that you have to use the yarn I did. But whenever possible, whenever it works out for the yarn company or dyers, I try to get that discount, just like as a little bonus for you, because I super appreciate testers. They're doing like volunteer work basically, to help make it possible for designers to know that, you know, their patterns are easy to understand, fit across the size range. So anything, little things I could do for my testers, like getting them discounts, is awesome. And my tests are run on Slack, and I know people have varying levels of experience with Slack, but I think once you kind of get in there, it's just like a chat room. But a cool thing about that is the testers get to share their works in progress, bumps they might be running into, like I'm not getting gauge, or I have this question about color choices, and I'm there to respond to questions, but also testers love to talk to each other about that. And people, of course, can then share their finished objects, get inspired, motivated to get going when they see other people's, and it can just be like a way to meet other knitters online. So I like that. It's a little bit of like community in there. So if you're interested, check out this test knit and fill out that application. Selected testers will be I will let people know if they're gonna be included in the test knit Monday morning. That's when I'm gonna like open up the chat rooms, let people know who got selected, and send the pattern to them. Okay. So, I could talk about this one a long time, but let's move on to some other stuff here. Okay, my other design work in progress that I have going on here, it's barely calling it a work in progress, it might even be a stretch. It's in the planning stage, basically, is a hat. And this is going to be a extremely basic 2x2 rib hat. But my plan for the pattern is that it's going to include 4 weights and of yarn. So like Think Ring Sport, DK worsted, gauge, instructions for all the 4 weights. I might stick Aran in there. I might combo it with worsted. I'm going to do some swatching and figure that out. I don't know, the more I keep thinking, I'm like, maybe I'll throw bulky in there too. Who knows? Do you guys like bulky hats? Let me know. I'll throw that in there while I'm at it. Okay, well, I'm starting with the worsted weight version, and this is my swatch. It's such a deep dark green, like it's probably really difficult to see, but it is so beautiful. It's like this deep, rich, sprucey forest green. And this is Corey worsted from La Bien Amie, and the colorway is called Jonah. Let's see if we can get this for you to see. I folded it all up. Is it gonna be backwards? It's backwards to me. I'll try to figure it out. Corey worsted Jonah. It's beautiful. I love the feel of it. It is 75% Falkland Corradale and 25% Gotland wool. And La Bien-Aimée is a Parisian dyer. And my local yarn shop, Black Mountain, carries some of her yarn, and this is my first time trying it out, and I really love it. Super nice. So yeah, I just swatched, figured out my gauge, and I'm starting on a hat, and it's this big. So I'll say it's a whip, but it's more like a swatch. It's equally a swatch and a whip, because swatching the increases, which I do like when I'm starting to knit, work on designing a knit, I'll like do a little swatch of the increase sections, decrease sections, just make sure everything's working out how I imagine. But for a hat, like swatching the increases is just the same as starting the hat. So if this goes how I want it to, it's just gonna actually be the hat, or I might restart. Yeah, so tiny. It's got a giant hole. But what I found I like for hats is I kind of prefer for it to have a bigger hole at the beginning, and then you just cinch it up. And I feel like that makes a really nice crown actually, as opposed to sometimes if you like start out with a really small number of stitches and have the tight start, it kind of makes like a little point in the center. So anyway, those are the details we're working on for that. And I have a whole lineup of other yarns. I'm doing other weights. This is a Aran weight. I have no idea how to say this. I don't even want to say it. Bushes. I don't know. That's amazing. Biches and Buches. Le Gros lamb's wool. This yarn is so nice. I just feel like it's my just ideal little gray, little off-white color. Like this is the staple basic color. I know the hat in this color, I'm just gonna probably be the one I wear all the time. Well, that's what I really think about all of them, so we'll see. This is this deep, rich red from Forest Lane Fiber Co. This is her Columbia DK. I ordered it a while ago for like a kind of different idea. And I'm repurposing it for my DK weight version. And then for my sport weight version, I got this beautiful rich brown. And it is my first time working with this yarn, which I've seen so much. I'm very excited to be working with it. It's the Farmer's Daughter Fibers Recollect. And this colorway is Porch Pumpkin. I'm gonna have to play with this focusing thing when you guys aren't waiting on me. Hopefully you can see it. But all these colors are just like really rich, kind of like natural, woodsy, autumnal colors. And this is going to come out in September, and that's exactly the color scheme I'm going for. I'm going to have a lot of hats after I make all my versions, but I really love just like a super basic beanie to go with everything, like whenever it's even a little bit cold, really. I don't have a lot of hair to keep my head warm at this point. But yeah, so I'm gonna have some selection of hat colors when I'm done with all this. Anyway, again, I could tell you a lot more about that, but you're gonna hear more in future episodes as I get those hats all knit up. And then instead of me telling you about what I'm thinking, you can actually see the result. Okay, let's move on to my next one that I want to show you. I actually skipped a finished object, so we're going to backtrack to that for a moment. This is a tank that is currently in testing, and it is called Galax. That's named after a spring wildflower in the local woods here in Appalachia. I'm in Asheville. I just moved here a couple months ago. And I live right by the Blue Ridge Parkway, all the woods there. This has been folded up for a bit now, so it's kind of got some creases going on. But it has this lace motif down the center, and this is inspired by Estonian lace. A little bit similar to what happened with the stitch pattern in Junko. I started with one actually in a book, Estonian lace pattern, but there was a lot going on. It's so beautiful, and I really loved how it worked in the lace scarf they showed it in. But it wasn't working for what I wanted as a central lace stitch in this. So I just took the two most basic elements of that stitch pattern, which are the rows of eyelets and rows of baubles or nups, a specific type of bauble in Estonian lace is referred to as a nup. And I just, again, kind of simplified it back down to the essentials of what I was really drawn to about that, and just came up with these stacked V's of baubles and eyelets. And this is worked bottom up, and so it's just worked mostly all in the brown, and then you just split it up for these 4 top panels. And then a I-cord bind off is worked all around the edges just to keep it really minimalistic but polished and finished looking. I really love how the I-cord bind off, applied I-cord actually is what it is. None of it's bind off, it's all applied I-cord. Really love how it works, which is why I included it, even though it definitely takes some time. But I think it's a really rhythmic process, just doing this little couple stitch repeat over and over. It's a great thing to just sit down with a great TV show and get that done. Some testers started wearing theirs without the I-cords. If you want to knit your own version, go ahead and leave that bar out, but I just really like having that finished touch on my knitted pieces personally, so it's well worth it to me. And testers are wrapping this up. The whole test is going to be finished in about a week. Multiple testers are already done and have shared finished photos on Instagram and in our Slack group. And other people are getting there. We have a beautiful range of different colors. A lot of people did go with like light kind of pale colors, but we got a couple brighter ones too, and that's really cool. And then this pattern is going to be released not too long from now in mid-July. I think I have a specific date in mind. I'm trying to buy releases on Wednesdays, so it's going to be a Wednesday in July. We're going for July 19th. That is the goal at this moment. And if you want to know when it's released, if you want to be notified first thing, be sure to be on my email list. My email list, my newsletter, is now the only place that you're going to get that release discount. So I'm doing, I'm doing a 15% discount on all my patterns from Wednesday to Sunday, the like long weekend that they're released. And I used to do it, like I shared it on Ravelry, I shared it on Instagram, I shared it in my newsletter, but now it's on the newsletter. And that's because my newsletter is really the best way for me to reach out directly to you guys. Other platforms like Instagram, it's really out of your control who sees what. So it's beneficial for me to make sure you guys can actually see my work when it's ready, to get you on that newsletter. And then so as a benefit for you subscribers out there, And if you're here because you are a subscriber and you saw that I sent out in my email that I was doing my first podcast, thank you so much for watching this, and thank you for getting this far. Okay, I think we are moving towards wrapping this up, but I do want to show you what I referenced in the very beginning, which is my little Intarsia swatch. So this is what I'm thinking about doing for my next helianthus. So I would do a block of this green here and here, and a block of the white here and here, just like my tester did. And I'm kind of liking, this is like a really low contrast option, and a lot of times with any sort of color work, I don't like to do low contrast because it can look muddled. But I think with the large panels, it's actually like a really great opportunity to be able to do a lower contrast because it's not like fine stripes where your eye kind of blends them all together. But I am going to swatch another color combo as well. So what I got going on right now is this green, which is a new colorway in Undine called New Growth, which I just love, and the natural. But I also got this blue-gray slate, I'm gonna say it's called. Yes, it's called Slate. My original plan was to do a stripe version just like this one, with natural as the base, just like this one, and then slate and green stripes. But then I want to do this Intarsia color block because it looked awesome. I'm going to link to my tester's post that she did with hers. She did blue and red for like a really high impact one. Okay, so this is the other thing I'm thinking about. These two. I'm going to swatch them. I'm going to swatch them and see if you follow me on Instagram. Maybe I'll share my stories, my different swatches, and see what you guys think. These are definitely going to be like higher contrast, more colorful. I think there's pros to both. I'm really not sure. I love all three together. Thinking about some different options here. But this was my very first time trying Intarsia. I'm just working it flat right now. It will need to be worked partially flat and partially in the round in my actual tank. I watched a video about how to do it in the round and I was like, what is happening? But I just need to do it while I watch the video. Sometimes things are just like that. I'm not going to get the video, but once I have something in my hands and I can follow along, then I'll get it just fine. Okay. Oh, and I'm really going all out with these versions of helianthus, actually. I also got this jewel weed color because I just love it. I love a bright, rich red. It's almost like a tiny bit like a salmon-y red. And I'm going to do another solid one in this. And I think it will be nice to have, I don't like to have a lot of whips at one time. I kind of stresses me out, honestly. I'm like, I need to get them done. But I think it will be good for me to have like a design work in progress and then a work in progress that's not a new design, that's either remaking a different version of one of my existing designs or a design from someone else. So that way I have one that's more, I need to be thinking about it the whole time, being like, are the instructions reading correctly? Is it turning out how I want it to? Are there any changes I want to make? And then a whip where I'm just following along instructions. So that's my plan, but I'm already doing that with another version of a design made. So if I'm going to be responsible with my plan, I'm going to try to finish this one before starting those undines. This is a second version I'm making of a design I released called Keone, and it is a fingering weight all over broken rib raglan. And I just love this texture. It's just alternating, when you're in the round, alternating knitting all stitches with a K1 P1. And like from a distance, it's not capturing it super well on the camera, but from a distance it looks kind of like a waffle knit, like when you're ready to wear clothing, you get like a waffle knitty, and I really like that, just like kind of basic texture, so that's what it's going for. It is knit on quite small needles, so it takes quite a long time, but I think it's totally worth it because I really get a lot of use out of my lightweight sweaters. I do a lot of carrying a sweater around with me, taking it on, taking it off, throwing it back on as I get hot or cold, and I like a lightweight sweater for that, and I wear my original orangey brown version a lot. So I'm knitting this one in the same yarn as the original. It is Forest Lane Fiber Co. I'm just using the front facing camera on my iPhone for now. I definitely want to upgrade to better camera equipment, but that is just not happening at this exact moment yet. So anyway, she has a beautiful logo. I apologize that you're maybe not seeing it very well here. But go look at her website. I love her logo. She is a indie yarn dyer, and this is her high twist merino sock. Unfortunately, this base is now discontinued because the mill that was milling this up has gone out of business, but she might still have some stock of it. It is so nice. I feel like I could just have this be my go-to fingering weight yarn for sure. The high twist makes it so that the texture really pops well, and I liked that for this design. But she has lots of other bases, and her colorways are gorgeous. I really love this green. This is called Royal Fern. And my original sample, same base, but is October. So like a beautiful orange brown color. Wow, I'm a little amazed I made it through everything I have piled up. And I really appreciate you guys sitting through this with me. And my plan is to be releasing these podcasts on a monthly basis. I'm trying to design and write about one pattern a month, so I think it will actually line up pretty well, and then it'll be easy for me to keep on track, like, oh, end of the month, gotta record a new podcast. And I just thought, I would talk about my thought process behind decisions I make in the designs, updates about what you can expect to see coming out soon, things I'm excited about, different yarns, all kinds of knitting things. But what I'd really love, of course, is to talk about what might be interesting to you. So if you have any feedback for me at all, like what you love hearing in podcasts, which parts of this interest you, which parts you might want to hear more about, please let me know in the comments, because this is only going to work if you guys are interested in what I'm here yabbering on about. So, and I'm thinking in the future, I also might want to do some videos that are more, not just this is what's going on, but like really diving into a specific topic. But totally new to filming anything at all, so this is my starting place. But if you have any topics that you love to hear about, or over the course of this podcast, I can kind of see what resonates with people, which specific parts of my process or knitting as a whole, you really want to hear more about and dive into. I might do some podcasts, or not podcasts exactly, but just independent standalone video diving deeper into discussing that topic. Yeah, I hope the sound and everything worked out okay on this, so I don't have to re-record. Thank you so much for being here. As you can see, this is my very first podcast, if I haven't said that enough. But please do subscribe, because you don't want to miss my future ones when they happen. Okay, bye. Happy knitting.